So, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our today's webinar. Let's first check if you can see me and hear me. Good evening, everyone. If everything is okay, just put a plus or a yes in our chat window, which is to the right of the video. Also, if you have any problems with the picture, just try changing the video definition. You can do it in the bottom right corner of the video, like in any other YouTube video. It's quite simple and it usually works. I remind you that to write questions and comments, you will need to sign in using your Google Mail account. If you don't have it, then unfortunately you won't be able to write any comments or questions. And I see that Richard is online too. We are starting. Hello, Richard.
Good evening. How are you?
Fine. And how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Okay.
Very much looking forward to this.
Oh, yes, everyone's looking forward, and somebody's written that it's the most exciting webinar in the world, which I absolutely agree with. So let me just introduce you. Everyone, of course, knows you, but just in a few words. So today, our amazing guest is Richard Graham. Everybody, of course, knows Richard, right? And he is the founder of the Genk English Company, the author of the Genk English programs, which are used in more than 190 countries in the world, right?
Yep, yes, every country except one.
Huh?
Every country in the world except one.
Okay, so every country in the world, almost every country in the world, which is really very impressive. Also, Richard is a TED Talk speaker, a teacher trainer, and today he is going to give us some tips on teaching English to young learners. Also, dear colleagues, I remind you that we have to thank for organizing our today's webinar, Dmitry Nikitin and his language school. And I remind you that Dmitry Nikitin's school is organizing a live training in Moscow this June with Richard Graham, which will be 5 days, and 3 days will be about teaching English to children, and 2 days about the Genk English business secrets. And Richard will tell us how to double or triple the income from a language school. So if you think about joining us in June in Moscow, just feel free to contact Dmitry Nikitin, and he will answer all of your questions. And I'm sure that Richard will also say a few words about the event in Moscow in the beginning, and then we will move on to our today's topic. So, okay, I switch off, and Richard, over to you.
Cool. Oh, thank you very much for the wonderful introduction. And thank you everyone for joining us here today. So actually, I think this is the first time I've done a webinar. I've done lots of Facebook Lives and lots of Skyping into big rooms. So this is the first time I've done a webinar. So if you can all hear me, just please put up some comments and say hello, which should be quite cool. And so I'll just quickly maybe just talk a little bit about how I got started and things, and then do some activities. We can try and do some activities on here. And then also I had some questions as well. So one of the questions was about how much language to use in class, how much English versus local language, and other questions. So if you have questions as well, put them up in the YouTube window, which I've got over here. So if you see me looking off screen, it's because I'm looking at all your comments over here. So let me just see if I can I screen share my things here? Let's just see if I can do this here. Can I do that? Can you see my screen? There we go. It's a little bit smaller. So I'll just quickly run through my self-intro, if that's okay. So my name's Richard. Hello. So I'm the CEO of Genki English. And if you want to find me, you can find me on Facebook. And if you want to find out details of the workshop as well, that's all on Facebook as well. So I first started teaching when I was 16. So that's me right in the middle somewhere. And basically, my school, I went to school in the UK, and my school was founded in 1612. And I think some of the teachers were founded then as well. It was so boring and horrible. And I think a lot of you know it was, chalk and talk teaching, which I think most of you know that, yeah? So chalk and talk is the old-fashioned British way of teaching with a blackboard and things. And of course, that sends most of the students to sleep. So I basically decided I wanted to make school, fun and also efficient, because we've seen a lot of teachers spending a lot of time teaching grammar and other things, and it didn't always get the results we wanted in the quickest time. So I wanted to get quick results very quickly, make it fun, and then it becomes easy to teach. And if it's easy to teach, children learn more, which is pretty easy. And then afterwards, I went to Japan, and I was teaching science in Japan, which was a bit of a jump, but my degree is in physics. So I'm a physicist by trade. So I was teaching science in Japan. And then while I was over there, they also asked me to help out with the English program. And so I did. I looked at the Japanese English program, and it was terrible. The kids were falling asleep, and they were learning really boring stuff that was no use. So I took the same thing and tried to make it fun again and interesting again. And I got quite famous, getting on lots of newspapers and things. I got in lots of magazines. I got a national column in Japan. In all the big newspapers, all the big dramas and things like that. And that went really well. And that was about 17 years ago. And then from then on, now my job is going around the world, helping teachers just like you to get some awesome results. So some teachers in Italy, you see they're being very Genki, and Spain, Slovakia, looks like a fairy tale there. Amazing teachers in Poland. I'm going really fast through these because I'm sure you're not that interested, but it's just interesting to see. And of course, Russia. Russia has got some of the most amazing teachers in the world. As you can see, some of the teachers, my last workshop in Russia, in Yaroslavl and also Izhevsk, we did workshops there. I just got back from Ukraine, Korea, China. And one of the things with China is, it's quite an interesting place to teach English. The last time I was there, we did a workshop where the Terracotta Army is. So I'm sure you've all heard of the Terracotta Army. It looks a bit like this. All the dudes all stood up there. But really, when they find these Terracotta Army dudes, they're all in little bits like this. They're all smashed to pieces. So somebody there has to take one little piece of this army, and they say, if they find one place that fits another piece, that is a good day. So if you're ever feeling that our teaching, sometimes in teaching we're thinking, oh, this is too crazy. But you think about these guys doing this job here, putting these jigsaw puzzles together to get this, and it makes our job seem a little bit easier and a lot more fun. We also have projects in, for example, Cambodia. This is Cambodia here. So the students have $100 laptops there. So we have the $100 laptops, and you can see these kids from some of the poorest areas. But we get the Genki English program on there. It works really well. In Thailand, they gave, these are the Thailand teachers. They're pretty cool. And the Thailand government gave tablet computers to 800,000 children in primary first grade. And the software on there is the Genki English program. So as you can see, and here are the teachers in Thailand. The teachers didn't get tablets, only the kids did. But there we go. So we do both. So a lot of teaching, we hear about the technology side. And the technology is fantastic for the input. It's really cool. But also we do a lot with activities for the output side and making sure we keep the real human part of it. So maybe we'll talk about later on about how teaching jobs will be replaced soon. I also got big workshops in Vietnam. Vietnam, we have like hundreds of teachers in beautiful clothes. And in India as well, we have some of the poorest areas of India. they teach in a very strange way in India. For example, I don't know if you can read this here, but she's teaching them, it says, why do we wear clothes? And it says, we wear clothes to cover our body. And the kids recite this over and over, just rote learning. They say, why do we wear clothes? We wear clothes to cover our body. Why do we wear clothes? We wear clothes to cover our body. Now, do you have any idea why they're doing that? Yeah. Well, the reason is that is the question that is in the exam. And year after year, it's the same question. So the kids just memorize these words and they've no idea what it means. But the teachers blindly follow the exams. And of course, the kids don't speak, and then they find it hard to get jobs, you know. So then we go in, and then we get them super Genki, pretending to be superheroes, and they get really enthusiastic like these. These are all orphan kids, but they're having a great time with Genki English. And also, if you look at Indian classrooms, you know, I think some teachers in Russia sometimes tell me that they have too many students in class. They can't do this type of Genki, you know, running around active teaching. But you look how many students are here in one class. So they managed to do it. So you can do things. And of course as well, you know, this is when we were in India last time. This was Apple Day. They were giving the kids one piece of fruit. It's the only piece of fruit they got that month. So I think a lot of us, you know, we teach in schools and we have problems where we are, but I think it's very important for all of us to be really grateful that, you know, we live in a nice place where we have electricity, we have fruit, and however hard our teaching problems may be, we can work together and we can get over them. And a similar thing in Africa. These are schools in Africa. They have no electricity. So I work with an organization that puts solar panels on the roof. We give them a computer and they teach and they get super Genki like these kids here. These are all teenagers doing Genki English. And we had Harvard University checking out the research on that. So Harvard University said, you know, based on a variety of analyses, it's been confirmed that the program had a significant, positive and robust impact on students' learning outcomes. So, you know, we do a lot of things today and it's really Genki and enthusiastic games, but behind everything is a solid educational, you know, results and educational things. What we do, we don't just want to play, we want to get results. There we go. And you know, as I say, you know, we just mentioned, you know, I've done a TEDx talk as well, and I'm also doing things with the X Prize as well. But that's all a little bit too complicated. So I'm just going to jump back on here, and if I press stop here, hopefully it's going to bring me back. There we go. Okay, so hopefully you can see me. I can't see Katarina's video. Are you still on here, Katarina? Is that okay? Okay, you guys can hopefully still hear me. And hopefully
yes,
still see.
I'm still here. I just switched off the camera. Yes, yes, we can see you. We've seen the wonderful photos, and we are all impressed of the varied experience you have in teaching and in teacher training in so many different conditions. It's really exciting.
Yeah, well, I think this is the key with, especially now with the internet and webinars like this. It's that all of us have, you know, teaching problems and things we're stuck with or challenging with. But by sharing ideas with everybody, especially, you know, online here, we've got YouTube and your community and the webinars, we can share ideas with each other. And very often the things that we're challenged with right now and stuck with right now, another teacher at some point has actually found a way around that and found a solution. And if we're sharing the ideas and sharing the solutions, that makes a real huge difference there. So so I'm just going to go so quick look through the comments here. Okay, good. We've got lots of things on there. So one of the questions you asked me yesterday was about how much English to use. And how much Russian to use?
Yes, it's a very hot question for us language teachers. So can you please tell, what do you think about using the first language in the classroom? Is it possible, and how much language one can we use? What do you think, and how is it in your program?
Yeah, well, I find this really easy. I don't know. Well, I do know why there is some controversy about it. For example, if you're a teacher in London, say if you're teaching English in London, then there's a fair chance that all your students speak different languages. You'll have lots of students from Saudi Arabia or Brazil or Germany or Russia, all speaking different languages. So there's no common language there. So in that case, you no choice. You really sort of have to do it in English. And obviously, if the students are really, really high level, then you want to get some extra practice in there. So really, but I don't agree. I don't agree with only English. I think that's a really bad idea. So for example, if I was teaching you science, I wouldn't do it just in the foreign language, because you wouldn't understand it. So, or if I was teaching you Japanese, and suddenly I went into all Japanese, and Kyuni Nihongo ni nattara boku wa iron na gesture shite mo iron na imi shite mo mataku wakaranai desho. And I could get you all to say, zutsu. Everybody, zutsu. Okay, everybody say it now. Big gestures, come on. Zutsu. Yay! Cool. But the thing is, what happens is that then you would, so what do you think that means? If I say zutsu, what do you think that means?
Is that head?
So it means headache.
Oh.
So you always end up with these, it's probably a silly example, but you always end up with these miscomprehensions. So, for example, I have my Teacher Training Academy, which is an online program where teachers do lessons and I give them feedback. And we had one yesterday where the teacher was teaching the kids, nice to meet you. And the kids all thought it meant, sorry, or as in, excuse me. They didn't realize it meant, nice to meet you, because they just didn't get it. So I always think it's very important to clarify in the local language if you have that luxury. So if all your students speak one language, always ask them. So introduce a new word. And then when you introduce the new word, say to them, what do you think this means? And get them to guess what it means. And very often, it's not the right guess. It's not the right word. But if you never say that, if you only use English, then very often you have this shaky foundation and it doesn't work. And the worst one is when people start to use dictionary definitions. So for example, people would say, do you know what a fish is? And they would go, no. So the teacher would say, a fish is an animal that lives into the sea and it has scales and gills. But if they don't know the word fish, they're not going to know the word scales and gills. So I always go by the L+1 thing. So whatever the student's level is, say if the student's level of English is here, the teacher's level of English is here plus a little bit. Now, if you go too far and it's all English, that's when students lose motivation. And if you go too low and you're using too much local language, say, for example, if you've done stand up, sit down in English, then you only ever do that in English, never do it in the local language again. If you do down here, you're not pushing them. So it's all comprehensible input, the level of the students plus a little bit, comprehensible input. And I think that's the way to go. I think for most of the teachers here, I think that's the way to go.
Yes, thank you very much. Actually, it's what I usually say and what I do in my lessons. But there are some colleagues who say you cannot use language 1 in lessons because they somehow think it can break the English language in the minds of the students, which I absolutely disagree, because it's a useful tool to use, not overuse it, yes, not use too much of it, but sometimes to check comprehension, I usually ask the students to say what do they think it means in Russian, and I also find it very useful. Okay, thank you. And now maybe you can share some of your great techniques for class, some of your great activities which usually help if something goes wrong or you substitute for somebody, just lifesaver activities.
Yeah, so it's a little difficult for me to explain here. So I'm going to try and explain, and let's see how we go. So actually, I probably should have some pictures, but it's a little. I can't bring up 2 internet windows. I've already got 3 on here.
Oh.
So yeah. So I did a workshop last week where we were Skyping live in, and I had my niece here with me. So a couple of activities that I find really useful. So the first one is just very simply training the kids to do things in pairs. So even if they're 3 or 4, you can still do this. I always do this sign. So I would give an assignment. So even if it's just stand up, sit down, or what's your name, or whatever it is, or how are you, we would just do that. And then the kids just talk to each other. And they're just talking backwards and forwards, the conversation piece we've just done. And that just gives you a little bit of time to think about something else you can do. So that's one quick little activity. Another one, I think, let me just see if I can, if I can. It's not letting me share more windows than I would like. If I can bring up, let me just give me a second here.
Try open it, and maybe then it will let you share.
Yeah, I think what I'll do is let me have a look at this. So let me go onto here and share this PDF file. Okay, so there we go. Okay, cool. Okay, so I'm going to try and, so this is my top 10 games ebook. This is free if you go to the Game Key English website and go to the games page, and you can sign up to my free email course, and it has it on there. So the first thing is just warming up, just jumping into any sort of like TPR style warm up. So things like stand up, sit down, but then also adding in big other words like big jump, small jump, quiet, loud, clapping, any verbs like play the piano, and the kids just repeat the verbs back to you and just do it whilst they're saying it. And that's a really simple one. The next one is a lines quiz. So you put the kids in 2 lines down either side of the classroom. It's quite simple. Can you see both there? Yeah. And then what you do is you ask the first kid in each group, so this kid and this kid here, you ask them a question like, what's your favorite color? The first person to answer sits down. The other person goes to the back of their queue and starts again. And then we have 2 new people in the front, and you can ask them another question. So, does that make sense how I'm explaining this? Is it easy to follow or not?
Oh, yes, it is.
Yes.
And we can see the photos. And I think everyone will download this book after the webinar or right now.
Well, and another very simple one is just called I Like Everything game. So this can be used for any vocab you're using, whatever question it is. Say if you're doing, what do you do? Or what are you wearing? Or what's your favorite sport? Or anything. You just get a stopwatch. So I don't know if you can see the stopwatch there. So you need the stopwatch, very important. And you say to the kids, okay, I want you to go and ask today's question to 4 different people. Now, if you say to the kids, do that, then there's no real, they just go, oh, why? And it takes them a long time. But if you say, okay, within 2 minutes, I want you to ask 4 different people today's phrase. Instantly, that game aspect of it makes them want to go, ooh, just a minute, what's going on here? And they get all excited. So then you just go, ready, steady, go! And then quickly the kids get into pairs, ask each other today's question. And then when they've asked the question, they find someone else, they do it again. They find someone else, do it again. Find someone else, do it again. And then when they've all done, they sit down, and then you look at the time on the watch. And that's a pretty easy activity to do. I'll just show one more that's a really useful thing here. This is the monster game. I'm just looking at the questions over there. If anyone's got questions about these games and things, let me know. I'll try and do them. Okay.
Okay.
Actually,
Olga has got a question. Have you got any classroom rules for kids?
Let's do that in a second. Okay. I just noticed one here from Jasmine, and she says, my favorite game of yours, Richard, is the monster game. Kids adore it. So that's this game here, which I happen to have. So I think it's probably better if you guys, well, I sort of explain it. This one is like Mr. Wolf. Do most teachers in Russia know the Mr. Wolf game?
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically with Mr. Wolf, the kids go on one side of the room here, and then one kid is Mr. Wolf. So in the traditional one, they say, what time is it? And this kid says, it's 2 o'clock, or it's 3 o'clock. And the kids move forward that number of spaces. But in the how are you version, the kids say, how are you? And the monster here says, I'm good, or I'm great, or whatever. And if it's good or great, they can move one step forward. But if the monster says, I'm hungry, all the kids have to rush back, and that kid starts eating them. So that's quite good. And we've got a few more games in here. These are all no prep games. Like this one is the I Like Pink Fish game is a good one. This is just for grammar and word order. So basically, one side of the classroom, you have flashcards of nouns. One side of the classroom, you have flashcard of adjectives. And the kids run, pick one noun and one adjective, come to the front, and then make the sentence using the cards. So it means you're teaching grammar without having to teach word order or anything. It's just natural how they do it. And you can also use several different cards. So you could have, you know, a time card, a verb card, an adjective card, a color card, a noun card, and another noun card. And then kids can come up with sentences like, at 9 o'clock, I like eating scary blue TVs and cows. Just by collecting flashcards, which is a pretty cool little activity there. So there we go. So yeah, it's a little difficult to show those on there, but so now the question you had was about classroom rules, was it?
Yes, classroom rules. How about classroom rules? Do you have any?
I do.
And what rules do you have?
Well, let me ask you, what classroom rules do you have, Katrina?
Me, actually, I'm quite careful about rules because, you know, we have to be really persistent about rules. And
Yes.
if somebody breaks the rule, we need to have some consequence. So I do not have any very strict rules like no Russian or something like that. Most rules are just values like share, be kind, be polite, and things like that. Because some teachers introduce rules like you cannot come to class without homework. And when a student comes to class and has no homework, they actually don't have any consequence for it. And then this means breaking the rule is okay, and it spoils the discipline. It does not help. So
Absolutely.
What about your rules?
Yeah, so I mean, I see a similar thing. So when I was in Cyprus doing workshops in December, and okay, I've just found my rules. So I was in Cyprus, and they had a whole wall of rules. It was just crazy. Yeah, and it's the same thing, because if you know, if the kids think, oh, well, I can break that rule, then maybe I can break another rule. So I have 2 rules for every workshop I do. So if I can just bring my slideshow on here. So these are my 2. Number 1 is, very simply, respect everyone. And that covers everything. So, you know, if they're talking when you're talking, if they're fighting, if they're not doing the homework, then that rule there covers it the whole time. And it always have to be respectful. So respect everyone. And then the second one is tell me when you don't understand. And that's, so for example, if I'm teaching, like if you guys now on YouTube, if you don't understand me, tell me. And I'll slow down or go back and explain it again. Or if the kids don't understand the English, then that's what I do. So I think when you have the fewer rules, the better. So, you know, those are just the 2 I have. Respect everyone and tell me when you don't understand. And, you know, one of the things I did the other week in my online academy was I went through the rules that I have in real life. And, you know, my real life rules they all come from Taekwondo. So in Taekwondo, we have rules. They have 5. Is it 5 or 6? Okay. So it's courtesy, integrity, perseverance, self-control, indomitable spirit. So those 5. So courtesy, integrity, perseverance, self-control, indomitable spirit. And then for the English classroom, I just go it down to 2. Respect everyone, covers everything, and tell me when you don't understand.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's great, because the fewer rules, the better, the easier for children, and better for the discipline. And can you share some more tips on discipline and classroom management, because it's also a very interesting topic for lots of English teachers?
Sure. Well, let me bring up my slides. Actually, I probably don't need the slides here. It's probably just easier to explain. But let me just have a quick try. I'll just quickly go through this. So if you go to the Genki English website, on the right-hand side, there's a whole section on discipline and things. And actually, in the academy, we spend a lot of time doing this, a lot of different techniques. So I'll go through a few of my techniques that I use now. So let's just have a look at that. So these are my ninja tips for perfect discipline. So I think the most simple one is the proximity effect. You know, so when you have a classroom and you think about your classroom, you know, the really good kids, the really great kids, you know, where do they sit? Yeah. Are they at the back or the front?
Right in front of the teacher.
Yeah.
Very close to the teacher.
Absolutely. And then I'd never like to use the word bad kids. There are never any bad students. There are only students that we haven't found the right way of reaching yet. It's a very important psychological distinction there. So all kids, you know, can be good. But the kids who want to maybe try and get away with breaking the rules, you know, where do they sit? So yeah, they just,
in the back, at
in
the back of the classroom.
So why do they sit at the back?
Because most teachers stay right in front of the board and near the teacher's desk and do not go to the back of the classroom.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's just the distance from the teacher. So the single, you know, the easiest discipline trick is just to, yeah, as you say, walk around the classroom. And you don't even have to do anything. You just walk nearer to them. And then just because you're nearer, they don't want you to be near, so they start behaving. And if you're always walking around, it also affects the eye line of, you know, the kids are looking in different directions and moving their bodies and things. So that's a really good one, is the proximity effect. I also have a thing with hands up. So if the I don't know if you can see me. No, you can't see me now. But if I put my hand in the air, then we have a rule where the kids all put their hands in the air as well. And if they see anyone with their hands down, they just tap them on the shoulder. And I always train my classes, so within 3 seconds, as soon as I put my hand up, boom, everybody has their hands in the air. And that works really well. And then I think the biggest discipline thing is what we call the agreement. So this is based on the, actually, I'll just jump back into video now. Actually, I'll just jump back on here. So this is based on the Pygmalion effect. And what this says is that whatever a teacher expects is what happens in the classroom. So if a teacher goes in there, and they've done experiments on this, they had 2 equal classes, and they told the teacher that this was a good class and this was a bad class. So what happened, the teacher went into the good class and they got way better results on the exams because the teacher thought they were good. And the kids in the bad class were actually the same level. But because the teacher thought they were bad, they started getting lower and lower exam results. And it's a big you know, research about this, and it works in all fields. You know, if you're a musician, you walk in there. If you think it's going to be a great crowd, they will be a great crowd. If you think they're going to be terrible, they will be terrible. So one of the things that we always do in the beginning is this thing called the agreement, and it's just the promise between you and the students. And then if you get that expectation, that promise there, then that makes a huge difference to how the kids see you and how you see them. So, for example, if it's a small kid, say if it's little kindergarten kids, you go in there and you go, stand up and like clap and cheer and yeah, okay, cool, 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 cool. Get them quiet and down. And you say, okay, so, and you do this in the local language in the beginning because, if they're English, if they're really beginners, you can't do this in English yet. So you just go to them and you'd say, cool, you guys are so cool, you're so amazing, and we're going to do an English class now. But this is totally different from every other class we've done before. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys the best, amazing techniques so you'll get really good at English, lots of games, lots of songs. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try my best for you. You've got 100% of me while I'm in the room. I'm going to make you the best kids ever. And then from you guys, what I want from you guys is, and this is where you do your rules. You say, I want you to respect everybody, to no fighting, okay? And then you might have to explain what respect means, because in a lot of cultures, the respect thing doesn't work. And then the second one is, and then tell me when you don't understand. Are you guys all cool with that? Are you okay? Yeah? And they'll agree with it. And that's just set the expectation for the class. So you go on and have a good class. And then, if you've got older classes, if you've got teenagers, you have to sort of go in a different way. So you sort of walk in there and say, okay, guys, cool. I know we've got to do this. We've got to learn this for the exams and for everything else. But let's just put that to one side because I'm here to give you guys some awesome English and some awesome exam results. I'm in here. We've got this time together. We're forced to be here. We have to be here. But let's make the most of it and work together and get some really cool results. So I'm going to give you 100% of what I'm going to do. And then from you guys, I want you to give me 100% back as well. And then the respect thing and then stuff like that. But just setting up this agreement is the real core of being a great teacher. It's setting it up from the beginning, letting them know what's happening, letting them know that this is something different and very different from everything they've done before.
Yeah, really great. Thank you. And what do you do if something goes wrong in the classroom?
For example, lots of things can go wrong. Can you be a bit more specific with the example?
Oh, like after a very active game, the children won't come down because the game stopped, but they want to go on playing.
Yeah, okay. So a couple of different things. So number one is we don't want to crush that energy because that energy in the room it's difficult to recreate, those of us who teach adults as well, getting adults into that peak state of excitement takes a long time. So especially for kids, we don't want to crush that. The worst thing that happens in primary schools is, the first thing everyone learns in primary schools is sit down, shut up. So we don't want to do that. We want to take that energy and then run it into the next thing. So there's a few things you can do. So number one is time the lesson so that the peak of the game or the peak of the song happens right at the end of class. So when they're doing the game, they're all building up, they're going, yeah, this is awesome, this is brilliant. And then you go, oh, we've run out of time. Oh, fantastic. Well, I'll see you guys next week. It's going to be awesome. Go home to your mums and dads and have a great time with them, and I'll see you all next week. And they go home with that energy and go, wow, that's fantastic. That's one way. The other way is then just to lead it into the next subject. So one technique I use is Genki Shh. So just like a Hollywood movie, the beginning of the lesson is full on, stand up, sit down, what's your name, how are you, how old are you, blah, 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 blah. Then when you introduce something new, it goes down low a bit. Like, for example, you'd say to them, okay, so, next week, Tom Cruise is coming to the classroom and he wants to play some sports with us. So we have to ask him what his favorite sport is. Yeah. So we have to learn how to say that in English. Something. So that's a bit down a bit. And then leading up again. And then after the game, you just do the warming up and the physical TPR, the standing up, sitting down, but do it quiet. So you say to the kids, okay, everybody, sit down. Okay, sit down. Stand up. Clap. Get them to clap and your hand goes higher, but then quiet. And just get them to do things quietly like that. That naturally calms it down, but it still keeps all the energy there. So, and of course, if they're behaving badly, they're breaking the rule. You know, if they're fighting or they're not speaking English or they're doing bad things, then you have to have the discipline there, the punishment there for what happens when they break the rules. So for me, it's either, so next week there'll be no computer, or there'll be no game, or we'll do a grammar test. So those are the ones I use.
Do you only have one class a week, usually?
Well, so now my job is traveling around the world teaching teachers. So I usually online, so in my online programs, I have classes several times a week. And then it's usually once a weekend. So every weekend I'll have a teacher training group in a different place. I don't have regular kids classes anymore, unfortunately, which is very frustrating because I want to do all the fun new themes, but I can't do them. But whenever I do teacher training as well, we try and, if we can, we try and put in a kids event and stuff like that. I'm not sure if we'll get, I think in Moscow in June, I think probably we're going to get the teachers to teach in front of other teachers. And because we've got 3 days, so we'll do a lot of techniques. Basically, I want to solve everyone's problems. So we've got a lot of questions in the YouTube thing. I'm happy to take those. I'm okay for time if we want to answer a few of those. And then in the live workshop in June, we'll take all the questions and answer all the questions. So, you know, everybody in their head is thinking, what do I do for this? What do I do for that? We'll fix all those. We'll go through some new teaching techniques. And then we'll get the teachers to teach those in front of the other teachers. And in the beginning, we'll act like wonderful students. So it'll be all nice and easy. The teachers will just be doing their regular lessons. And then as we go through the 3 days, we'll start getting more and more naughty. So we'll start fighting and talking and being rude, just so the teachers can get some experience of trying out the discipline techniques in a safe environment, you know, away from the kids. And once you've been through that, yeah, it's pretty much sorted with everything you can do. So good. Do we have any more questions from the viewers on there, or how are we doing?
Well, lots of questions about using transcription, and what do you think about it? Is it possible to use transcription while teaching children to read, and what do you think about it?
Yeah, so now in Russia, when you guys say transcription, you have a very different meaning to what we say in the rest of the world. So in Russia, when you say transcription, you mean the International Phonetic Alphabet, yeah?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Because in other countries, transcription means listening to something and writing it down. You transcribe something. So 100 years ago, if you were teaching in Russia 100 years ago, not many native English speakers and not many fluent English speakers, and no tape recorders, no internet, nothing like that. So transcription was the only way for Russian people to transmit or to teach each other how to pronounce words. They'd look in a dictionary and they'd look at the International Phonetic Alphabet and take a rough guess. So that sort of worked. You know, I'm always very impressed by Russian teachers, how they can suddenly change their accent from Bronx to South London to the Queen to Australia. That's very impressive, but it's not very efficient. And you know, these days we have computers, so the kids can hear the natural sound from the computers, and then it's much easier to go straight from the sound straight to phonics. Because if you come to England, nobody knows the IPA. You know, you might find a few CELTA graduates who might know it, but if you go the average person on the street in England, they have no idea what those symbols mean, but we can all read. So it's a case of how much time you have. If you have 10 hours every day, do transcription, you know, and teach them everything like that. If you only have a short amount of time, just do phonics. So speaking first, then phonics. And with phonics, in 7 hours, kids can learn to read. So I always feel that we shouldn't steal kids' time. I always feel that time is the most important thing we have. And one of the things we talk about in the business course is that too many teachers spend too much time lesson planning and preparing, and they don't have enough time with their families. We say that love is spelt T-I-M-E, because if you love your families and you love what you love to do, then you spend more time doing it. So for me, if we can take what we want to teach and we can teach it in the less amount of time, I think that's the best thing for everybody, because we get better results, better students, more students, and we get to spend more time doing things that we want to do.
Well, that's great, because lesson preparation is also very important for teachers, and there's so much on the internet now. There are so many different tasks, worksheets, activities, videos, and you can use them for free, that lots of teachers just start collecting them, and they have loads of information on the computer, which they actually do not use. They lose it on the computer. But lots of colleagues admit that it's like an addiction, and they just can't stop downloading the stuff because it's so cool. What do you think about it? Do you have any advice? Because I think it's a terrible waste of time.
Yeah, so I mean, I started my website in 1999. So I have I've lost count. It's at least 20,000 pages of materials and activities on the website. Yeah, I've got my downloads. When people buy my teacher's set, they get access to the downloads. There's thousands and thousands of them. I forget where they are. But what I found over the years is that that's not what people want, especially now. This is too much. And if the course isn't structured well, then you just spend all this time going round and round and round, and you never reach your destination. So what I always say to people is, find out your destination first, find out where you want to go. And that's half the battle done, is you can just go straight there. And I find with my courses is the reason people buy the Genki English course is because it's just 100 lessons. And I try my best to throw away as much as possible and just to keep the minimum possible to get the results. And we just give you the 100 lessons in a row, and everything's on one page, and you just go through like that. And paying the $500 or whatever it costs to get the pack, it's worth it because it saves you that much time. Because then you're not thinking, oh, but what about this word search? And what about this? And what about these flashcards? And what about that? It's no, this is the minimum. Off we go. So I think, I don't know if this, it's all about its minimization of how to get the best results as quickly as possible. Because I think a lot of the teachers on here, do they have their own schools? Do you guys have your own schools? Do they?
Well, I think yes. There are lots of teachers have their schools or teach privately at home. For example, some teach groups and some teach individual students.
Cool. Well, because that's good to know, because one of the things I find when we're talking about how to get more new students is that teachers always seem to be wanting more students and everything. I want more students. I want more students. I want to teach everybody in the whole world. And you can't do it. I've tried. I used to teach 1,000 kids every day. I went all around the country. We're doing 1,000 kid lessons each day. On the internet, we have like tens of millions of students using Genki English. But what I figured out, it took me a long time to learn, is I can't teach everybody. And no one here can teach everybody. I think most people, even in your town, even if you're in a small village, you probably can't teach everybody. So it's a case of what we focus in on and what our super niche is. What are we good at teaching? And focus in on that, and then get the best results in the shorter time possible. And that's one of the keys to getting more students as well, is to say, first of all, you ask the parents, you say, okay, if I could wave a magic wand and get the perfect results for your daughter or son, what would it look like? And then how would you know we've achieved that? And if you ask them that, they tell you where they want to go. And then you can just go and achieve that in the shortest time possible, if you've got really efficient choice of materials. And now very often teachers don't ask that question. and students come to the classes and there's no time limit. They never ask the parents, you know, or they might say to the parents, what do you want? And the parents say, I want them to speak English. But that's too broad. It's too, you can't define it. So we need to be a lot more narrow on what we're doing. So, you know, my program is A1, A2 in 100 lessons. Very simple. You know, and if you're doing higher things, then you probably want to look at courses that offer that. And I want to keep being more efficient with it as we go. It's like with English, with, do you know how many words are in the English Oxford Dictionary?
500,000.
Really? You think so? What anybody else? Anyone want to give us comments on how many words are in the Oxford English Dictionary? Does anyone know on there? If we're on that, okay. So, and so imagine if there were 500,000 words, are you going to teach all those words to the kids?
Of course not.
Well, they do in China. You know, that's what they do in China at university is they get the dictionary, they start from A, and they memorize every single word in the dictionary. And over 4 years, you know, they learn all the words. And they have to do that for the exams and to get the visa to study in America.
But I think it's because of the language, because they have to study their Chinese characters, every character separately. And maybe this influences the way they see European languages.
Nah, it's just a really bad exam system. Yeah, no, so, I mean, Chinese is more efficient, actually, because there are only 5,000 characters in Chinese. But we've always got way more words in, you know, in English. So, but yeah, there are actually, if I can put this on there very quickly. So, yeah, there are 171,476 words in the Oxford English Dictionary. And yeah, we don't want to teach them all because most of them we never use. Most people in England only know a few thousand words. I think Winston Churchill apparently had a huge vocabulary, and I can't remember the exact number, but it wasn't that amount. It was only a few thousand. And what you find is that these are the top 25 words of English. Can't highlight them all. Those top 25 words, you know, they actually represent 33% of all printed English. So if you just teach those 25 words, you've taught a third of all printed English, which is not bad. And the first 100 words gives you 50% of all printed English. I think that's quite amazing. So, you know, these are the 100 words there. Everybody's going to be taking screenshots now, aren't they? So now this is actually printed English, these words here. But it's a very similar case with spoken English as well. These are the spoken English top 100 words. So that forms about, you know, 0.5%. So you can say, no, do you want to spend 6 years learning pretty much nothing, or 6 years learning transcription, or 6 years learning whatever? Or for, you know, adult students, do you want to teach them in 1 week to speak 50% of English? Now, how's about that for a sales point if you've got adult students? And of course, for kids, it takes a little bit longer because you have to do it with, you know, songs and games and things. And it's same with grammar as well. You know, you and I is 80% of spoken English. So it all depends what your goals are. You know, if your goal is to only pass the test, then okay, that's different. We have to do a separate workshop on how to cheat tests. You know, I said I went to a private grammar school in England. That's all you learn. You just learn how to cheat the tests. You know, do the multiple choice first. Even if you do random, you get 25% correct. Then you go through the questions that have definite answers, so you've got a chance of getting 100%. You leave the essay questions till the end because that's where you lose the most marks. And the systems for doing that, which, you know, if exams are your goal, then, you know, do that. But my point is always, let's get, you know, we're looking at the future of what students will need in the future, and the students need spoken English and maybe Chinese. So we want to get the spoken English there first. We can add in the phonics to get the reading very simply. And then once they have that, once they can speak English and have the confidence to do it, because English isn't really about the words and everything, it's how you do it. It's the eye contact, it's the gestures, it's the body language. If you get all that there, then once they've done that, then you can move on to the exams later on if you want. But you don't want to start off just, you know, aiming for the exams. You want to start off aiming to get awesome speakers, confident speakers, get them reading. and then afterwards you do it all in steps. It's all in the right sequencing. Like when you wake up on a morning, you know, if you get dressed and then go in the shower, that's not a good way to do it, you know. So it's the same thing. It's like, you know, you go in the shower first, then you get dressed. So you learn to speak first, then learn to read, then you can do the exams if you really want to.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. All right, so I think we've answered all of the questions.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm just having a quick look through as well. So okay, we've got lots of them. Excellent, good. Cool. Actually, Jasmine just put on there, said all English is TPR. All Genki English TPR. Yeah, we use a lot more than that. I mean, I try to use, so TPR is what I use in the beginning. But a lot of what I try to do is we take in the best teaching in the world. So I was just in Arizona. We had 1,000 teachers there. And these are some of the best teachers. And they're teachers of things like psychology and, you know, there was the world karate champion there. There's dog agility trainers. There are sewing teachers, knitting teachers, dressmaking teachers, business teachers. And we take all these different techniques and a lot of the psychological techniques and we put those into the classroom. And then, you know, the TPR warm-up is how we start off. But then, for example, with the music and the songs, I take all that from the world of advertising. So, you know, when you watch an advert on TV, the songs are specially designed to stay in your head all day. And that's what I do with the Genki English songs. Because, you know, most nursery rhymes are designed to put kids to sleep. Whereas I want the opposite. I want to, just like an advert on TV, I want to get the language, you know, straight into the kids' heads so they can't forget it. And then it's all the way you think. So, you know, probably just me finishing up here, I think, but we talked about the rules of the classroom, but in Genki English itself, we also have 2 rules. We always teach the kids, this goes through the whole curriculum, is the first rule is I can do it. So every question in Genki English, whether it's an I can, is everything is I can do it. There's no I can't. Because when you look at the most successful people in the world, I can't doesn't come into their head. It doesn't exist as a concept because they know that anything that can be done, they can learn how to do it. So they can do anything. You know, we have a superhero song. We get the kids to be superheroes. And we say to them afterwards, you know, can you fly? And the kids go, yes, of course I can fly. Very often teachers say, no, I can't. And I say, well, okay, I'm going to be in Moscow next week. I'm not going to walk. Of course I can fly. There's a way to do it. So this, you know, thinking I can is really important. And we put that all through the curriculum. So for example, how are you? It's all positive words. You know, a lot of textbooks have, you know, like, how are you? And it's like, I'm hungry and I'm tired and I broke my arm, my head aches, my stomach aches, my dog died, and it just breeds this negativity. But with Genki English, it's the opposite. So we do, how are you? It's I'm good, I'm great, I'm fine, I'm okay, it's a beautiful day. So the kids go home with this positivity going through their brains and getting really positive. And then the other one is losing just means try again. So whenever we get games and things, we always get everyone trying again, trying again, trying again. So all the teachers on here, you know, when you're trying new techniques and you're trying new things, if it doesn't work, just try it again and keep going and keep going. Now, I've been teaching for 25 years and I always keep pushing myself to get better results more quickly and have fun doing it. So I think that's a really, really important part of it as well.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I think everybody's enjoyed your talk. Oh, we have one more question. Do you have time for one more question?
I'm okay. I can do this all day, I tell you. Don't get me started on education. I talk all day. But so go ahead, go on.
Okay, Anna says, I have a big problem with discipline at lessons with children from 5 to 6 years old. Can you give me any advice?
Yeah, okay. So use the 2 techniques I did before. The agreement and the proximity effect. Those are the 2 big ones. One other little tip is it's called angel wings. Imagine they've all got wings like an angel coming out of their backs. And instantly, if you start doing that, you will treat them in a different way. And this technique works, you know, even for like, you know, tough teenagers or whatever it is. You know, I learned this from, I was doing training with the State Department in Tanzania, or the American State Department. And so even if you're in teenagers being like rough and just imagine they've got angel wings coming out of their backs, and your attitude to them completely changes. And because of that, their attitude to you changes. So give that a try. Just before you do it in the classroom, just look around the street when you're outside. See everyone you see, imagine them having angel wings coming out of their backs, and you'll start seeing the world in a different way. And then when you walk in the classroom, the kids will sense that, and they'll start realizing that you're on their team, and you'll start having a much more positive environment. Things like that sound very, you know, in America they call it woo-woo, you know, all this very sort of new agey type thing. Yeah, I'm a hardcore scientist. You know, with my students, we were launching simulated launch of NASA satellites and getting data from spacecraft going around the moon. I'm very hardcore science. But in teaching, it's the psychology is the main thing, and how we think as teachers. Instantly, if we have this idea that there's a naughty kid, or that behavior is not good, or this isn't good, it completely changes our attitude. Whereas if we go in there thinking everyone in this class is going to be a class of angels, there are rules in place, I'm going to teach them the rules, they know what happens when they break the rules, it just completely flips around and changes it and makes it into an awesome class.
Well, that's a wonderful technique, I think. I've never thought about it, but now I'll try it, not only with my students, but, well, I think you can try it everywhere, every day.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay, there's one more question. What are your icebreaker activities with young learners in the very first lessons, and what are your first words to the class?
That's a good one, isn't it? I did a video about this. So if you go to the Genki English website and just search for very first class, there's a video about this. My very first word is, what's your very first word when you teach?
Hello.
Yeah, so that's it. Just go hello, and it's how you say it. So you know, if you go in there and you go in going get my books ready and blah blah blah, and you go hello. Doesn't work. So you have to go in there, you know, strong, confident, look around the class, you know, eye contact with everybody before you do anything. You're looking around, big, strong, you know, superhero posture, you know, either like that or whatever. Probably not like that on the first one, but, you know, strong feet, you know, get the presence in the classroom. It's all about the presence you have. If you're exuding, going, and closed, then nothing will happen. You just go in there, nice and big. It's your classroom, your rules, but we're going to have fun. Look at all the kids and just go and say, class, hello! And then they'll go, hello. And you go, no, come on, a lot louder. Everybody, ready? 3, 2, 1, hello! And then you go into it. I've got a whole warm-up sequence. You can find that on the website. Or join us in June and you'll be able to see it in real life.
Yeah. Thank you. And Natalia asked, what do you do to the noisiest child in a group?
I say, well done.
Oh.
Yeah, well, noisy is good, isn't it?
Oh, I think she meant noisy. By saying noisy, I think she meant disobedient.
Oh, okay, well, disobedient, yeah, so it's the same thing. It's just proximity, walk closer to them, see what they're doing, and then if they get even further past it, then you would just remind them of the rules and just go and a lot of it is with your face as well, and it's with your eye contact and your body language as well. So it's like discipline is like driving a car. You know, when you drive a car and you see a stoplight and you push on the brake, and in the beginning you push on the brake, and really you're supposed to pull off the brake. So as you reach the stoplight, your foot is supposed to be off the brake, almost completely off it, yeah? You don't want to be getting closer and then like that. And discipline is the same thing. So you want to try and cut it out or channel that energy in the beginning. And a lot of it is just with eye contact and things. So it's just, if you see the kids just walk up next to them, keep doing what you're doing, or just look at them with or little things like that, and just try and rechannel it. But don't see noisy as a bad thing. Noisy is a good thing, because noisy means that kid wants to communicate something, or they haven't understood something. You know, so very often if kids start being noisy and playing around, you know, if you're doing a Genki English lesson, they want to do it, but as soon as they don't understand what you expect or don't understand the language, that's when they start doing things in the local language or start being naughty. So it's a sign for us to find out from them what's wrong and how we can explain things better. I hope that was okay.
Okay, thank you. I think all the advice is really very useful, and everybody will go to work tomorrow and keep these things in mind. Thank you.
Cool. Oh, blimey, we've had an hour. Wow. Okay, I do have to go.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for speaking today. Thank you for answering the questions, for giving this talk. I think, yes, that if somebody wants to ask you more questions, we can just join in June and have a live training session. Yes, thank you. Thank all of our viewers for joining us today, for asking the questions. And okay, see you in June. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's going to be amazing. So join us. Yeah, if you're just into the teaching, come to the 3-day teaching one. If you also want to get a waiting list of students, come to the business one as well. But I'm always so impressed by the teachers in Russia. It's just, it is amazing. And actually, well, we're on YouTube, so everyone can see, aren't they? But yeah, yes, teachers in Russia are certainly some of the best teachers in the world. You guys, girls, are just fantastic. You put the effort in. Your own English is amazing. You learn all this stuff about it, and you know, being on here at whatever time it is in the morning or evening now, learning about this stuff is really, really impressive, and that puts you right at the top of the best teachers in the world. So yeah, email me, get in touch, and then come and see us in June. I think, do we have the dates? I think Dimitri will probably put the dates in the comments there. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. And thank you very much for today. Thank you.
Yes, we have the dates in our teachers group, so and everyone can contact Dmitry for the information. Thanks to Dmitry for organizing this event. Thanks to you, and okay, thank you, and goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Bye.